Namaskar viewers. Hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha. You're watching Perspective. US President Donald Trump has sharply escalated his trade offensive against India. Last week, he signed an executive order imposing an additional 25% tariff on imports from India, targeting India's purchase of Russian oil. Now, this new 25% tariff is over and above the 25% tariff that was imposed earlier on the 31st of July, marking a significant intensification of trade restrictions. The Ministry of External Affairs responded with strong words, calling the move unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. Notably, the MEA also pointed out in an earlier communication that both the US and the European Union continue to trade extensively with Russia, far exceeding India's payments for Russian oil, raising serious questions about the selective nature of these tariffs. This unilateral US action has strained the strategic partnership between both the countries, casting uncertainty on the future trajectory of US-India relations. Today on Perspective, we'll analyze the impact of these tariffs on the Indian exports. We'll discuss the steps India might take to protect its national interests and also explore how this trade conflict fits into the broader context of US-India ties. Joining me are distinguished experts. So let me begin the program by introducing them to you. I'm delighted to welcome on the program today former Ambassador Deepak Vohra. Ambassador, glad to have you with us on the program today.
Delighted to be with you.
Thank you. Dr. Manoj Kumar Agarwal, former head of the Department of Economics at the University of Lucknow. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Welcome to Sansad TV. And Dr. Charan Singh, CEO, EGROW Foundation. Professor, always a delight to have you with us on Sansad TV. So we'll try and understand the short-term, the long-term impact of these tariffs on the export goods from India. We will also delve into how this may play out on the long-term US-India relationship. But before that, Ambassador, let's understand perhaps the geopolitical factors that have driven this kind of a unilateral action by the United States. Because on paper, of course, what Donald Trump has cited is punishment for purchasing Russian oil, and that explains the 25% additional tariff. However, if you look, if that was the case to be, China perhaps would be facing greater consequences. So that of course appears as not the only riding factor. So from a diplomatic perspective, help us and our viewers understand what, according to you, are the geopolitical factors which have led to this kind of a trade escalation on part of the US president.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Privilege and honor to be on your amazing channel. And you yourself, by the way, you are brilliant. I say this with total sincerity.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Of course, you have the two legends on your channel now on this program. They'll tell you much more. ये इतना percentage है, वो इतना percentage है. Wikipedia will tell you that, all news media will tell you that. Trump done what he has done. Let me try and explain this to you in very simple terms. Millions of people watch your program. He's angry with us. He's not angry because we are buying Russian. We've been buying it for a long time. He's angry because Bharat is rising barrier, and we have the courage to defy America's dictates in many areas. You know, ma'am, I'm 74 years young, 52 years in diplomacy and accounting. I'm a cold warrior. I've lived through that period when after the Second World War, the United States and the Soviet Union were clobbering each other. Soviet Union disappeared, America became the sole superpower, the hyperpower. 9/11 happens, other countries come forward, China emerges, India emerges, it's no longer that. So when he talks of make America great again, he wants to go back to that period, beginning 1991 to 2001, when nobody had the guts to defy him. America, what is their mobile international dialing code? One. For telephone. Everything he wanted to be number one. America is not used to being number two. Trump is beginning to realize that with the emergence of groupings like BRICS, for example, like Quad or whatever, to some extent, and in fact to an appreciable extent, the unilateral projection of American power, which it is so used to doing, is declining. And India is one of the countries that said, Tiger, we are now strong enough to take you on. So you want partnership, let it be partnership. Now Trump's tariff terrorism, we know how to deal with it. Ma'am, 1998, I beg your pardon, when we did our nuclear explosions, I was in government at that time, and I can tell you that we had a very tough time. They imposed very tough tariffs on us. We hurt very badly, but we are resilient. We got it. And then similarly, it happened with cryogenic engines and so on. They tried to play all kinds of funny games with our distinguished scientists, etc. These are all games that these people play. The overriding objective would be, look, let's stop the rise of India unless we get an India that is totally subservient to the United States. The angle with China is also this. I brought you up. I gave you the technology. I gave you the money. और अब आप मुझे ही आंखें दिखा. That is the basic issue, what drives people in the United States, the so-called dark state. If you see what the American military's motto is, what their objective is very clear. Go to their website. It says to ensure American dominance in the world. And when you have that kind of an outlook, naturally you're not going to brook any opposition, even if it's very mild opposition of the kind that we have. What will the impact be? The Americans haven't stopped their cooperation with us in defense or in space or in agriculture or in medicine or in education. We have not done anything about it. They have not done anything about it. So we are there with them. We are continuing. We compartmentalize our relationship. यहाँ पे हम दोस्ती कर रहे हैं. We will continue. If here you have some issues, we will deal with them. This is a sign of maturity. We are the children of China.
Okay, so while
it's not going to have any major long-term impact. America needs India. India needs America. It's a partnership that will endure. We have a huge diaspora of 6 million people. They have an interest in this. America wants India's market. China's market is gone. Europe is declining. 140 crore people, that's India's. Whether he sells Harley Davidsons or whatever else, he wants this market. So I don't see that there would be any major long-term impact. We'll suffer for a while. Government of India will deal with the exporters, will help the exporters who suffer. But ma'am, take it from me. At my age, I've been through it. Our resilience is so strong that Shri Donald Trump, on the 27th of this month, till when he has given us the time, Shri Donald Trump will withdraw the tariffs.
Definitely. Let's see how things play out and how India responds to it in terms of the necessary action that the MEA has spoken about. But you said America needs the Indian market, and I'll take it from there. Professor Singh, how big a factor is what the experts are also pointing out over the last few days is that this could be a pressure tactic perhaps to have negotiations on the American side to have a trade deal in their favor. This is something that the US has done with several other countries, that you levy very high tariffs and in panic these countries then agree to your terms. Is it a similar tactic that the US president is now playing out with India?
I'm totally convinced that it is the pressure tactics which is being placed out on India. Now, I would like to mention that yes, tariff wars is an important issue. But if you look at the tariff wars that President Trump leashed in his first term, he was starting on a very similar situation. More so, if you look at the history of tariffs, Smoot-Hawley Act of 1931 only worsened the Great Depression that we had, of the worst depression we ever had, which impacted America the most. So I'm sure President Trump understands that he can push so much and not much more than that. As far as India is concerned, as has already been mentioned by Ambassador, we did have a similar sanction against, sort of sanction, severe, rather much more severe, when we did the Pokhran during Vajpayee's time. India withstood that pressure very elegantly. The present modern time, at this point of time when India to a great extent is Swadeshi, as Prime Minister put it, and we have such a huge manufacturing base and a huge market within our country, this pressure really will not help. And that is why you have noticed it in the last few days. The Prime Minister and others have said, okay, we are thinking about it, we'll work on it. Indian market is very large. Indian hinterlands are still unexplored. Our exports to America are not that much that we are going to be shaken with such threats. I think the American economy is going to suffer from a sacrifice ratio because tariff war is going to impact the prices in America too. Well, the rest of the world will also suffer a sacrifice ratio in terms of growth. The World Bank has already cautioned enough, the IMF has cautioned enough that global trade and global growth is going to suffer severely because of this. Whenever there is an impact of tariff on trade on growth, it's a global welfare which takes the hit. And obviously, in that global welfare, Americans will also take the hit in terms of higher prices of goods that they consume and lower growth. Europe will take the hit. India will take the hit. The whole global, the planet will take the hit. So I'm aware that the Americans will very soon start to tell their own president that you can push so much in name of negotiation and pressure tactics, but you can't push it so much that everybody gets engulfed in a lower growth and lower welfare cycle.
Certainly. So what happens in the next 17 days, the 21-day period will end after that. So let's wait for that. But Dr. Agarwal, what is your assessment of these tariffs imposed by the American president, the 25% that came into effect, but the additional 25% which is being imposed as a form of punishment for purchasing Russian oil? How are these layered tariffs, according to you, going to impact in the short term to begin with the Indian export market, especially the labor-intensive industry such as textile, footwear, gems and jewelry?
See, there is a possibility of some sluggishness in export, as you mentioned about the textiles, gems and jewelries and leather products particularly, because we have the immediate rivals nearby. But the larger issue is whether America wants India to use it as it's a captive market, captive country, just it used to happen before independence by the Britishers and Europeans. Because they want that the way they want to purchase from us, they want at very low price, number one. Secondly, they want to sell at very high price and much conditionalities attached to it. But is it a solution to American economy? Now the question is, Trump is confused whether they want to solve the problem of American economy or they want to penalize Indian economy for which he is not entitled to. And as far as Indian economy is concerned, it has been very smart from last 10 years or more than that it is gradually shifting its market base to unexplored market, particularly the African countries, Latin American countries, and elsewhere. So given that type of situation, India is playing intelligently and it is exploring, it is not succumbing to pressure, and that's its strength, and Swadeshi Karan is on its rise. I am telling you why America is worried. America is not worried about the Russian oil that we are purchasing. America is worried for the Russian oil because it is finding that BRICS are getting stronger. Number one, brick by brick, BRICS are getting stronger. Point number two, America is worried that India is going towards Swadeshi Karan, and that's why 5G has been from its own, 6G is going to from its own Swadeshi Karan, mobile manufacturing is on its, you can say, top. Similarly, defense armaments are being manufactured, and instead of American defense equipments, India's defense equipments are in demand. Our space technology is much in demand. So it is expanding. These are the threats that America is perceiving. More than China's threat, it is the India's threat that America is perceiving, and it is shaky. So it is in the guise of America, Russia, Ukraine, all those. These are, I think, non-issues. The issue is very simple. Why in the face of America, India is emerging so quickly? That is the worry for American economy.
Okay. Ambassador, I'll come back to you because we know there are several factors, but what's prominent and what's perhaps triggered this move is it's sort of a pressure tactic for better negotiations regarding the trade deal. But what we've already heard the Prime Minister say is that India is not going to budge, even if it means a personal loss for the Prime Minister. He is not going to let go of the interests of the farmers and that of the agri sector in the country. We heard him say that a couple of days ago at an event after the tariffs were already imposed. So it means when it comes to negotiations, India is not going to budge. But what are the other diplomatic channels through which we can address it, or can we impose retaliatory tariffs? How do you think India will be able to withstand this kind of unilateral action?
We don't succumb to pressure tactics. That the whole world understands. Prime Minister said so. Everybody and his grandmother has said so. That if we are not going to, ma'am, let me put it to you like this: our exports this year, and I'm talking of calendar year 2025, financial year would probably have a slightly different figure, are likely to come close to $1 trillion. That has 12 zeros. And if America wants a huge market, man, China has booted them up. China has gone. They've lost. Europe is declining. Europe doesn't want to buy anything from America. They don't have the money. I am the money. I have the money. I have a per capita of 240,000 rupees per annum per year, which is not very much by American standards. They will come around to this. The idea is whatever my surplus production, I should be able to offload it somewhere. Now, he's talking this nonsense about companies coming back, reshoring in America. And there are things called supply chains. There is, you can't pick up a factory from, let's say, Argentina and plonk it in America and start producing the next day. We've talked of textiles. I heard Professor Saab say that some of our exporters will suffer. Professor Saab, who is going to replace the supply chain? Agar aapne kaha, there are some of our neighbors who will benefit. The neighbors are very smart. They'll wake up and say, right, they're not buying stuff from India for $10 a trouser. Now we give it to them for $40 a trouser. They're going to take full advantage of it, and who's going to suffer? The American consumer. Something very interesting has happened today. The Canadians, through whose territory the only land route to Alaska from mainland America passes, they have imposed an additional 25% tariff on the toll that the Americans are going to hurt, their trucks are going to hurt, their cars are going to hurt. Alaska depends purely on this sun. And I think this, Mr. Trump is going to slowly realize offending the whole world doesn't help. So, man, the channels are our diaspora. We haven't stopped talking to them. We don't retaliate. That's not Chanakya. We do it very quietly. We do it very low-key. We do it below the radar. Even as I speak to you, even as I'm on your show, I'm at a meeting where we are discussing with some colleagues from that country about the way forward. So we don't make noise about it. We don't have megaphone diplomacy. We're not in that business. We do it very quietly. And when India has sons like Professor Saab and Singh Saab who are here, we're not enduring one. Some people are outstanding. We deal with it. Yes, for a brief period of time, we probably will suffer, but we are resilient. We know how to deal. So the diaspora will help, diplomats will help, other countries will help. And hopefully, a time will come when Mr. Trump realizes that his MAGA PAGA is actually becoming MA, which means make America alone again. And his own constituency is beginning to say, why am I paying more just to punish India because you don't like them, you don't like India's right? Simply because of that, you're making me pay more for what I have to buy in the market. No, I think this is a non-starter, what he's trying. It's a game that is bound to end in defeat for not for the United States, but for President Donald Trump.
Okay,
it's going to end in his. He will realize. Because there's one thing I like about this guy. I've met him a couple of times. He'll say something to you just now, and 10 minutes later, he'll say exactly the opposite. So he might just turn around and say, I never threatened to impose tariffs on India. That executive order, I don't know why I signed it. Now I signed a new one. He's quite capable of doing that. Don't be surprised if he does.
But what is the impact, Ambassador? I'm just curious to know, how do these tensions affect the larger scope of strategic partnership that we have with America? For example, in other areas, say technology or defense cooperation, do these tensions in the area of trade also have some kind of impact, even if it's for a short term, on these strategic areas of cooperation?
Not at all. Not at all. We compartmentalize our relations. I will not buy pharmaceuticals from India, fine. That doesn't mean that you don't cooperate with me in agriculture, that you don't cooperate with me in education or in space technology. Not at all. We are at a level where it's not a donor-donee relationship. It's not just him giving it to me, man. its partnership in the true sense. We launched their satellites. We've just sent up this NISAR business, which is jointly between ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, and the American fellows. We've had our chap go up there. Oh, they realize India's technological progress, so they won't touch that. You know, in IT, we are world leaders in artificial intelligence, etc. They won't mess around with that. What he is trying to do is the path of least resistance. Tariffs लगा दो भाई इसके exports के ऊपर, but don't touch the other areas which are critical for America. So it's not going to, if at all it has any impact, that impact will be less than zero.
Okay, Dr. Agarwal, you spoke about the immediate fallout on some of these sectors, perhaps when the 50% tariff comes into effect. But what effect or what kind of steps do you think we should be taking to protect the domestic industries, the Indian exporters, as an immediate fallout of these tariffs? Is there anything that we can do to lessen the impact, perhaps, on the domestic industries?
Is this for Professor Agarwal?
Dr. Agarwal, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, there are some strategies to diversify our market. And in the meanwhile, we are negotiating with America also. It is not that both are indispensable to each other. It is not that it is a childish game. And America will realize that it cannot afford to leave India in isolation in its terms. And India is strong enough now to withstand such type of pressure. And with regard to short term, nowadays the definition of short term and long term is changing too quickly. But my belief is that in the next few months, India will be back to again its buoyancy and its own resilience. India will be there. It is for America to see that how can it weather this type of situation, because it is getting isolated from all different sectors, whether it is the Europe, whether it is the NATO, whether it is the, you can say, China, India, Russia, and what it is more worried is about the existence and the strength of the dollar. In fact, Trump is worried for that. And his worry is quite right, because he is not behaving rationally to improve upon its own economy. Rather, it wants, as has been the factor with the European countries and American economies, that they want to solve their problems from external sources. Whereas the problem lies within the economy and within their own policymaker. For example, their indebtedness is at a historic high. At historic high, it is around 120% of its GDP. So it is a matter of worry. Its policy rate is quite high, around 5%. Unemployment rate is high and GDP growth is not improving. And whatever you do, if you are raising the tariff, inflation would be there in your economy, and moreover the cost of tariff is going to be borne by your own people, not the Indian people. In India, only the problem is short term, you can say, some slowdown of some items being exported to America. And that's why India is insulating its behavior by involving itself in rupee trade with many countries, and it has diversified its portfolio for energy security as well as for export.
So, Dr. Agarwal, there is trade policy.
It will be in a position to come back with full strength.
Okay, so that's good news that there is minimal impact and also in very limited sectors. But from this entire episode, Dr. Agarwal, what is the lesson that we can draw? Because on one side is trade policy, on the other, the energy security, catering to 1.4 billion Indians, and that's what is in national interest. The question is, how can we better prepare to avoid such kind of, even if it's for the short term, shock to our economy, shock to the domestic industries, to the Indian exporters?
In fact, we are putting thrust on the domestic economy, unlike the Americans. And that's why our demand is increasing rapidly. And this is the reason that we are putting much emphasis on transformation of agriculture, low cost farming, and generating more growth engines. For example, bringing out 25 crores of people out of poverty line, and they are the new growth engine for the Indian economy, new middle class. And this is the aspirant middle class who will drive the economy further. So there are much of the situation that is going to improve upon the Indian economy. Similarly, our technological improvements are there, technological transformation is there, and new growth engines are being developed that will help the Indian economy to grow faster, not only grow faster, move towards developed economy as desired by the Prime Minister.
Okay, Ambassador, I'll take one last question from you because time is running out. What's the way ahead from this entire episode? And I'll take a similar question from you as well. From the entire episode that has taken place, 50% tariffs for a country that America calls a strategic partner and a key partner. How do you see it in the wider context of the US-India relations and the future of this strategic partnership?
It's a hiccup. It will not have any impact on our partnership. I don't know what the term strategic means. But if America says my number one enemy is China, which it strongly believes, which even Trump believes, despite the fact that he rings up Ting Ting, whoever's the president of China, and says, sweetheart, darling, darling. The reality is that he perceives China as a threat. The only country that can stand up to China in any meaningful way is Bharat. I think Donald Trump's people will tell him that don't lose India. Because if you do, then you will not be able to contain China. That's it, man. That's the bottom line.
I think that's something that a lot of US economists are also advising the American president. Let's see how the American president responds to that. But for now, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. I'd like to thank Ambassador Vora and Dr. Agarwal, also Professor Singh, for joining us on the program today, sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.